Hi. Um, a culture that I identify with is my home church. And I would say specifically my home church and not just my church because my church is like super big. And how we break out our church per se would be like four different main campuses, and within those four different main campuses, there are home churches. And I want to specifically talk about not so much of, being a Christian as a culture versus the attitudes and beliefs and values within my home church. It would be easy to talk about how religion has its own set of beliefs, or Christianity has its own set of beliefs and its own set of values, and how those values come out can kind of be the same. And I really wouldn't say that they're the same if I was honest, but I think it's known that Christianity has a set of beliefs and values, and you can get that from the Bible. But I want to specifically talk about how in my home church, within my church, which you would consider terminology wise, my home church would be a subculture of my church. And so why I pick my home church is because I would say that my home church deeply values and deeply believes that inclusiveness is really important. So we all share this value to the members. I would say the members, because there's people that come in and out of our home church weekly, but the members that consider their home church, this home church, my home church, to be their home church, they share this value. And how I identify with this culture is I share this belief and value that inclusiveness is important, and exclusiveness is can be really unloving. Meeting once a week to study together, to form relationships together, to learn about our walks with God, and to serve this home church, which is all these values are deeply ingrained in my home church, which I identify with and I believe in. I consider it's like a part of my identity too. Like, I'm a part of the Up to Grove home church. That's how you would identify my home church, and identify with the culture that we like for people to feel welcome to our group. We like for people to know that they are welcomed. We like for them to know that they are on their own pace with their own walk, and that we want to spur them on to good works as much as possible, and we want to lift them up. My culture is very diverse. There's diversity in race, there's diversity in age, there's diversity in just the different backgrounds in my home church that brings very unique talents and ideas, things to address in where they're at in their walk. So how I became a member would be kind of more of like a surface culture aspect. There's no specific way on how you become a member of our home church. You can decide that I identify with the Up to Grove home church, identify with their culture, but you could never come, but you're a part of it. So there's no like set way, but how I became was I started to do some surface actions in this culture, which meant that I would a value in my home church is building relationships, not being tribal, going out and hanging out with people that are new, joining, like on our Facebook page, we have a fun thing to do every month. And if you can come and make it, then you can come and make it. And usually people have a great time and we hang out together. So I became a member of this culture by just showing up, being faithful, talking to people, meeting new people, which was really, really new and scary for me. It is not something that I did. And I still struggle with it to this day outside of my home church. But since it's a belief I have and it's a value, I do it in my home church, which I wish I would do it outside of my home church. But I think my culture helps me to do it. Another way how I became a member is, so another way to show my home church that you identify with us is getting into a discipleship group, which is kind of like just like a mentoring group. So I got a part of a discipling group, and because I wanted to learn more and I wanted to know how to be a better follower of Christ. And so that, I think, really solidified my membership of my culture. Why this culture is important to me, not only because of my religious beliefs, but because of the relationships. It's really the values and the attitudes that my home church holds. I've seen how not having relationships in my life has made me empty, feeling lonely, feeling unwanted, feeling unable to survive in this world. It made me very desperate, and now that I have them, I see the value in them. I see why they are so important, not only for joy and camaraderie and for companionship, but just in school and in work and in my marriage. It's so important to me because of that. And I don't want to focus on that's the only value or belief in my culture, but like that is a really, really big component of my home church that I haven't seen inclusiveness always in a home church. I've visited other home churches where there was a lot of tribalness and exclusiveness, and it was really off-putting for me. And I didn't really like it, and I didn't think it reflected the culture of Christianity, which pushed me away. And that's fine. It's not my job to judge where they're at in their walk, but so why my culture is super important to me is because of the beliefs and attitudes of relationships. And so one surface aspect of our culture is hanging out together, doing, like I said, or another thing that I could talk about is we love to play new games. Like finding a new game is super, super important for us because when we hang out, we usually play games together, because there are some things about my home church that is not a part of our culture, like maybe going to the club and getting drunk. That's not going to be something that we're going to do. So finding fun things to do in our hangouts, and I would say that would be a surface culture, and a deep culture aspect of my culture would be our approaches to a lot of things. We have a lot of beliefs. I would say marriage is the approach of marriage. So because of my belief in Christianity, my home church my church deeply values marriage, but in my home church we deeply value forming a great relationship with the person before you get in the relationship. So we believe that friendship is super, super key. And we encourage, we talk about it, we try to model it for younger people to be friends with someone that you like first. Good friends before you get in a relationship. So a surface culture would be that you see people that like each other and they're not dating yet. They maybe just be friends for like 6 months to a year before they even decide to start dating. And that's because we believe that you can find out if you can. We want to go into dating someone with marriage in the back of our mind. We're not dating just to date. We're dating to get to a place where we can see, can I marry you? And so that approach is going to look different. That mindset is going to be, I'm not going to waste your time and I don't want you to waste my time. So let's date and find out if we like each other enough. And maybe we could do that before we even start dating by just being friends. And then getting into the relationship and evaluating that person throughout that time. Like, can I marry you? And my husband and I, we were friends for 2.5 years before I even started dating him. Now, I was deeply broken, and which is why it was so long. But then within the, first couple months of dating, I knew that I could marry him. And he knew way before I knew. And that's because we had such a great friendship. And we could really say that we were best friends before we started dating. And then we got married like 2 years after we started dating. Yeah. That's all I have.